When she said goodbye that morning, everything felt normal. Just another day, or so I thought. Her suitcase was already waiting by the door, neatly zipped up and standing at attention, like it always was. She gave me a soft smile, the kind that felt warm, but carried a strange kind of distance, and pressed a light kiss to my cheek. "I'll call when I land," she promised. Nothing out of the ordinary. By then, this was just part of our rhythm. My wife, polished, professional, endlessly organized, had built a successful career that came with its fair share of travel, conferences, client pitches, networking galas. I'd lost track of them over the years. They all started to blend together after nearly 20 years of marriage. I never once questioned her work ethic or her loyalty. To the job, to me, to us. Or maybe I just didn't want to. But let's be honest, the clues had been there for a while, hadn't they? They started small, barely noticeable things. Her phone always lying face down. Dinners that stretched late into the night, far later than they used to. The way she'd lower her voice when I entered the room, ending a call with suspicious speed and a casual, "just work." I shrugged it all off. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who doubts, who spies, who jumps at shadows. Trust had always been the backbone of our relationship. And for years, I genuinely believed there was nothing to question. Still, something shifted. That quiet, uneasy feeling, that little twist in your gut that whispers something's off, it started creeping in. I tried to swat it away like a fly, blaming it on stress or overthinking, but it kept circling back. It didn't hit me all at once. There was no dramatic moment of truth. Instead, it was death by 1,000 tiny paper cuts. Her laughter, once easy and often, grew rare when she was around me, but came alive in text threads I couldn't see. Her trips, once predictable, started stacking up. Longer, more frequent, less explained. And the wedding ring? She stopped wearing it altogether. "It's too tight," she said offhandedly. "I need to get it resized." Then came the night I overheard her talking on the phone. It was late, way past midnight, and I found her in the living room, speaking in barely there tones. Her voice had a softness to it, almost flirtatious, like the way someone talks when they think no one's listening. The second I stepped into the room, she flinched, fumbling to end the call with a speed that said more than her words ever could. "Who was that?" I asked, trying hard to sound nonchalant, like I wasn't already reading between every line. She didn't miss a beat. "Just a colleague," she said. "Too fast, too practiced. We're finalizing details for next week's conference." Sure, it could have been true. On the surface, it even made sense. But she wouldn't meet my eyes, and that little detail lodged itself in my brain like a splinter I couldn't stop picking at. The real shift came about a week before her next trip. We were lounging on the couch, me half watching something on TV, her glued to her phone like usual. She must have assumed I was zoning out because when a message came in, she didn't bother hiding her grin. It was subtle, that little upturn of her lips, but it didn't belong to work. "Who's texting you?" I asked, keeping my tone casual, like I was making small talk. She barely looked up. "Work stuff," she said, locking her phone with a flick of her thumb. But that smile wasn't for a client. I knew it in my bones. That night, once she was fast asleep beside me, I crossed a line I never thought I would. I went through her phone. It was locked, of course, but I knew the code. Anniversary digits, ironically. My hands shook. It felt like betrayal, like spying on someone I was supposed to trust. But that same trust had been cracking for months, and my instincts were screaming for answers. And there it was. A name I didn't recognize. David. The messages weren't graphic, Not the kind that'd make headlines, but they didn't need to be. Can't wait to see you again, Red. Last night was incredible. That single sentence cut deeper than any confession ever could. I didn't say anything right away. I couldn't. I needed more than suspicion, more than one damning message. I needed proof that would silence the denials I knew were coming. So, yeah, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I hired a private investigator. It felt surreal, like something straight out of a second-rate thriller. But when the ground starts crumbling under your feet, you'll grab onto anything that offers solid footing, even if it means following your wife. The investigator didn't need much time to piece it all together. While she was supposedly attending back-to-back conferences and high-stakes meetings, the reality was far simpler and far more brutal. She was holed up in a luxury suite at a 5-star hotel with David. And as it turned out, he wasn't even in her line of work. No overlap, no business excuse, just lies. What hit me wasn't just the betrayal, though that alone was enough to level me. It was the overwhelming cocktail of emotions that followed: rage, humiliation, sorrow. But strangest of all, a hollow sort of peace. The kind that creeps in when denial finally gives way to clarity. I knew. I didn't need to guess anymore. The truth had shown its face. When she came back from her trip, I slipped into character. Business as usual. I asked the right questions, nodded at the right moments, watched her spin her stories like she always had. I let her lie to my face with the same mouth that had kissed another man. But under that calm surface, I was burning. The reckoning came a few nights later, over dinner. I waited until our son was out. Just her and me, no interruptions. I poured us each a glass of wine, placed the folder of photos and reports on the table between us, and said quietly, "Explain this." She froze. You could actually see the color drain from her face. Then came the predictable sequence: shock, denial, tears. She tried to scramble for control, saying it meant nothing, that it was a one-time thing, that she still loved me. She reached across the table, crying, begging me to forgive her. But I wasn't looking for apologies. Not anymore. "This isn't just between you and me," I said, voice steady. "It's about everything we built. Our home, our years together, the boy we raised. You didn't just lie to your husband. You broke faith with your family." By morning, the decision was made. I contacted my attorney and filed for divorce. I told her parents. That conversation will stay with me for a long time. They were crushed, blindsided really. For years, they treated me like a second son, trusted me with their daughter and granddaughter, believed in the family we'd built. Hearing the truth about what she'd done broke something in them. You can see it in their eyes: disappointment, disbelief, heartbreak. Not just for me, but for the version of their daughter they thought they knew. But nothing compared to the weight of telling our son. He was 19, old enough to grasp the reality, too young to be untouched by it. We sat down one evening, just the two of us, no distractions. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I spared him the ugliest parts. He deserved honesty, not scars. I told him his mother had made choices that fractured the foundation of our family. That trust had been broken, and it wasn't something that could simply be patched up. He was devastated, angry, lost. I could see the storm brewing behind his eyes, the kind of emotional collision you don't prepare for at that age. But when the dust settled, he stood beside me. He didn't take sides out of loyalty. He made a choice based on the truth. He told me he understood, that he respected me for handling it with integrity. That meant more than I could ever explain. The divorce wasn't clean. These things rarely are. There were fights, long silences, drawn-out negotiations. But I walked away with something far more valuable than a settlement: my dignity. She made one last attempt to fix things, called it a terrible lapse in judgment, begged for another chance. But there was nothing left to salvage. Some betrayals cut so deep they leave no room for return. As for David, that little love story fizzled out fast. Last I heard, he'd already moved on, leaving her to sort through the wreckage. Actions have consequences, and she was finally facing hers. Me? I thanked something I hadn't realized I'd lost: freedom. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd shelved for years, remembered what it felt like to laugh without reservation. I even started dating again. Cautiously, yes, but with an open heart. My son and I grew stronger through it all. That shared hurt, what could have torn us apart, somehow became a bridge. We check in more often now, talk openly, lean on each other in ways we never had before. If there's one thing this chapter has etched into me, it's the value of self-respect. Sometimes it's the people closest to you who deal the deepest wounds. But that pain, it doesn't get to write your ending. You do. You rise, you heal, and you move forward. Wiser, tougher, more certain of what you deserve. So here I am, closing the book on that part of my life with no bitterness, just clarity. The road ahead is uncertain, sure, but I know what I'll never accept again: anything less than honesty, loyalty, and love that doesn't require me to doubt myself. And that, I think, is a pretty good place to begin again.